I think we're in a very dangerous place. It must be worse than a recession. The middle class is getting wiped out. We've been talking about this for months or longer, and this was at a time when the Fed was saying inflation is coming down, Wall Street's inflation is coming down, they're going to cut interest rates. The Fed was still saying, we expect 3 interest rate cuts between now and the end of the year. I mean, they were saying this in the beginning of April, 3 interest rate cuts between now and the end of the year. Everyone thought that there would be no cut at the May meeting. Nobody thought that. But you still had June, July, September, November, December. That's 5 meetings. The Fed's on a crazy schedule. They don't meet every month. It's like every 6 or 7 weeks, but 8 meetings a year is what it boils down to. So you had 5 meetings, June, July, September, November, and December. And you're talking about 3 rate cuts. Okay, no problem. 5 meetings, 3 rate cuts. That seems to work. Except, and this is what we said a while ago, inflation is not coming down. Now, that's the story. That's the narrative. That's what Wall Street likes to talk about because they just want to sell your stock. So it goes back a couple of names. The first name is the pivot. When would the Fed pivot from rate hikes to rate cuts? That's the infamous pivot. They stopped hiking rates in July 2023. So that is true. They're just on hold for the time being, but they're not even close to a rate cut. And that's what we've been saying. But Wall Street started talking about this 2 years ago. It was the summer of 2022. Remember, the Fed started raising interest rates in March 2022. At the time, rates were zero. When I say rates, we're talking about the Fed funds target rate. So it's a very, really short-term overnight rate. We're not talking about 5-year notes and 10-year notes. Those are different. But the overnight rate that the Fed targets, it was zero at the beginning of March 2022. Well, they just started hiking in March 2022. They finished in July 2023. So about 15 months of rate hikes, and they got it up to 5.5%, which is where it is now. But Wall Street started talking about the pivot in the fall of 2022. Now, they didn't say it was going to be that month, but they said, early 2023, the Fed's going to cut rates. Well, then that turned into like mid-2023, and then it turned into late 2023, and then it turned into early 2024. Here we are in mid-2024, and they were still talking about it, but they've been wrong for almost 2 years. And we said they were wrong. We didn't say the Fed was going to raise rates. You can't take that off the table, but we said they were definitely not even close to cutting rates. So what's the kind of backstory on inflation? Inflation peaked in June 2022, 9.1%. And by the way, let me just do a quick footnote on the definition of inflation. It shouldn't be complicated, but people make it so. When I talk about inflation, I'm talking about the Consumer Price Index, CPI, comes out monthly, computed by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it's measured on a year-over-year basis. So you look at the monthly index and you say, what was it a year ago that month? And then that's it. That's how they compute it. That peaked in June 2022 at 9.1%. By the way, the highest since the early 1980s. You got to go back over 40 years to find inflation that bad. But it was 9.1%. By June 2023, so a year later, it had come down to 3%. The Fed was putting up the mission accomplished banner. Well, it wasn't mission accomplished. Yeah, 9.1% down to 3%. Nice job. But it wasn't 2. I mean, they were trying to get to 2. They had what they call the last mile. How do you get that last a little bit down? Well, the problem is it's been going up ever since. So here we are almost 10 months after that low of 3% in June 2023, and it's higher. Inflation is higher than the prior month and, at this point, a prior year. So inflation is not just stuck. It is stuck, but it's actually been going up. All you have to do is look at that. And if you're worried about inflation, if that's your job, you're the Federal Reserve, your job is to get inflation under control. And inflation has stopped coming down and is starting to go up. How on earth are you going to cut interest rates? Well, the answer is you're not.